It's
Happy to
great to
have
have
you
you
on,
here.
Francesca.
Yay. What a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been
So,
fun.
what's life been like for you? Any new big news
Yeah, let's just
regarding
jump right into
anything?
it. Let's
Life
not even give
Well,
changes.
a minute.
I mean, I guess this is kind of the thing. There's way too much. If I were a flagship, progressive news network on a day where, I don't know, a student was disappeared off the streets, and I just would never lead off my show with a 20-minute takedown of a contributor, and why I don't want her on my network anymore because she mean to me. Like, that just doesn't seem like a priority. And so
Francesca, that's why you don't run the #1 progressive news web platform on the internet. Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. The video is kind of
Polymarket Studios, of course.
the video is crushing it for them. I did, issue a response. If people want to go check that out, youtube.com/FrannyFio.
I watched it. It was good.
Thanks,
very
man.
Some good info in there.
Thanks. I mean, it was, just some personal stuff that needed to be said just to give full context. But like, the reality is, after I interviewed Cenk in December and kind of had a frank conversation about like, hey, why are you going on, Charlie Kirk and PBD and Tim Pool and not really pushing back or trying to, actually score any points for our side. No one invited me back on the main show. I was never invited back on the main show since December. And so tacitly, it was clear that I was not going to be invited back. Then when I put out my little Curb Your Enthusiasm video that sort of pointed out that Cenk laughed in my face about there being detention camps, and of course, lo and behold, Gitmo is opened to, Venezuelan migrants, alleged gang members, which honestly, TYT's coverage has very much contributed to the hysteria around, sadly. And when I put that out, I think he got really mad. I think he got really prickly. I then interviewed Mondale Robinson, who also quit as a TYT contributor. He didn't like that interview. He's been watching. He watches, right? And then, of course, to my patrons, I did call him a bitch. I said he was acting like a bitch. And let's be real, there's a difference. I'm just saying, like, in that moment, he was acting like a bitch. And that was when he did something that I think has been a pattern for both Cenk and Anna, and the pattern I have a problem with, which is going on right-wing shows and actually, instead of, arguing about issues or trying to win points for a side of justice, democracy, freedom, is actually serving up so-called extremist leftists on a platter as a sacrificial lamb, as an offering. Look at this crazy person who said that trans athletes can participate in, whatever, Olympic sports. And isn't that insane? Let's agree on that. And that is my offering to you as I come to your table. And like I said, it doesn't get you anything. And in that moment, I was the offering. The things I've said on Piers Morgan about trans athletes, things I continue to say about trans athletes.
What struck me from his video about you was, first of all, he basically front loads it with this attack on you, calling you max left because of your transposition, and he basically tries to do what you did with your curb theme, albeit much less successful.
Right.
He tries to prove that he was right, and dunk on you when he doesn't prove his point. Like, he shows a poll, or CNN's Harry Enton talking about a poll saying that most Americans don't agree with trans athletes. None of us are talking about the popularity of trans athletes and not basing our policy on popularity or support for policies on popularity. We're basing it on morality and making a substantive argument. So just saying, well, policy X is unpopular, therefore it's not correct. I mean, you could make that argument about gay marriage 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, rights movements go through, right? Like, how popular was Black Lives Matter? How popular was the civil rights movement in general at the time? What was it polling at?
Desegregation. That was very unpopular. So we're not making an argument based on popularity. I'm not a populist inherently. I'll use populism to my advantage if it suits my narrative to get what I want accomplished. But at the end of the day, I have moral principles. And that was the point that you made that went right over his head. And what I loved is that in the end, he was talking about how unbothered he was by all of this while playing the clips of you dunking on him and shitting on him in the most hilarious fucking way
I kind of
imaginable.
looked good, right? I came off looking
Oh, yeah,
pretty
no,
It
good.
made
those are
you
great.
genuinely look fucking amazing. Yeah. I
mean,
don't get how he does that and then pretends to be unbothered when clearly, like, if that were me, like if I was the subject of that and you're like, you look like a bitch, I would be bothered. Just saying.
I guess, I always feel like it's weird when someone sets up the sort of parameters of debate and so it's like as if I have to respond to every single thing he said in that video. Cause really he
Mhm.
didn't respond to the substance. Cause there's a reason I said those things about him. There's a reason I said, I don't know if you're smart and I don't know who your mentors are. I don't know if you know your political histories of struggle. I don't know if you care about that. I don't know if you care about civil rights to the point about, same-sex marriage, or interracial marriage. These were things that were also not popular. So I'm not really sure what your
Mhm.
touchstones are. And the reason I said that is because of his behavior since Donald Trump has been reelected. There's a reason,
Yeah.
and he completely didn't address that. And I've been really obsessed with this Democratic. I mean, she's a progressive leftist strategist who studies movements and electoralism around the world, Anat Shenker-Osorio. And she came on my show and she said something great, and I don't want to butcher it, which is the job of a good message isn't to say what is popular. It's to make popular what needs to be said. And
Yeah.
what needs to be said is things like trans people are people, and you should not, if you bar people on just any kind of legal framework from certain aspects of life, that creates a slippery slope, a permission structure, even a legal structure to take away rights from other groups of people. Trans issues are absolutely a trial balloon on authoritarianism. And Mara Jones was on my show the other day. She said exactly that. I mean, so it's like, these are the things that I don't think he gets, and I don't think he cares to get. But of course, you guys, we're all the max left, all right? And we
Yeah.
are all very biased. And all y'all have tangled with him before too. And I literally asked him when I talked to him on my show in December, I was like, so like what shows do you like? Like which leftist do you even support? And he said nice. He was like, like Mike Figueredo, and even though I'm like, have you heard anything Mike's been saying? Like, listen to him, right?
Just feels on you.
Yeah. And then he said, I like Kyle. And I know Kyle hasn't gone super negative, but has massive critiques. And Crystal Ball's interview with Cenk was mostly Crystal going, okay, like she held her tongue, but like, so it's just like, it sucks, but for us, for you guys who do this every week, it's like so great because it's sort of like, all right, here is someone who is, alienated their former allies. And we in this moment, I mean, we should be forming unions for content creators.
Yeah.
We should be fucking ready when Google comes at us for speaking out about Palestine,
Which they will.
speaking about
Yep.
which they will, for speaking about trans rights. Like we need to get prepared right now. And sadly, one of the biggest, blue bubbles on the Media Matters map, like
I know.
isn't with us on this.
Mm-hmm. That's what makes it sad to me because I watched TYT for a very long time. Back when I first started college, getting into politics, like I wrote papers on new media citing TYT. So to me, it's not just like I know people like will accuse me of trying to drama farm and shit like that, but I'm like genuinely sad because I felt
Yeah.
like I really looked up to these people, and to lose like the biggest network, the largest online news network, and to see and Cenk likes to simplify his anti-trans take when if you look at everything they say, look at what Anna says, she's just transphobic. Like it's not just about sports anymore. There's other things that she says.
She
here and
said,
there.
I don't know how I feel about locker rooms. I don't know how I
Right.
feel. I mean,
Right.
this is,
Mhm.
there are Proud Boys, in LA have been protesting outside of, spas because
Yeah.
they allow trans people. Like, this is not abstract. I mean,
Mhm.
these are real white nationalist talking points. These are, and sort of clarion calls, whatever. That's their, and I'm not saying she's a white nationalist, but it's like, you gotta look at the connection here. Oh, I don't know how I feel about locker rooms. I'm fine with bathrooms, locker rooms. What's the difference? Let's see. How much of a wall must there be? I mean, obviously, Ariana and I know that all we're doing is checking out people's genitals in female locker rooms. That's all you do. Mostly, you're like, oh, hey.
Yeah, I can't confirm.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
civil rights
okay.
terms and conditions, essentially. It's what they're trying to set up, right? And this
Yeah.
is the reason why the right uses all of these issues. These are wedge points. It's a really easy thing to be divisive on, because no one wants to sit there and be like, "What, are you okay with biological males going into female bathrooms and penises?" Now, obviously, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh shit, no, wait, God, oh Jesus, that sounds terrible." But then if it's like, this is exactly why I'm going to frame it in such a way that when you hear it like described that way, of course, oh yes, maybe things have gone too far. The gender ideology, the woke mind virus, everything's taking over, and you're giving them all the ammunition they need. Now it comes from the left. Look, it's not just the right who says this. The home of progressives is saying that things have gone too far. Now,
That's
oh my
what
God.
is so, yeah.
It's insidious, right? It can be so much more damaging when you have like a Jesse Singal or someone who establishes themselves as a centrist or a leftist or a liberal or something like that. The right uses that when it comes to like, hey, now we're trying to enforce laws that are directly going to discriminate against people, and it's not just coming from right wingers; it's coming also from liberals, centrists, and the left as well. So here we go.
And
it's not even just that. It's that, you know, TYT is fairly, you know, a big channel, obviously, online. So their viewers don't all share like their most progressive views, or even really may not consider themselves all that political to begin with. Like maybe they lean, you know, left, so they watch TYT. And maybe they have a question about what they're like. Maybe they're questioning where they should, how they should feel about, you know, trans issues. And what TYT says will be highly influential to them. And what they're getting from TYT is, hey, you can still feel like you're progressive on other issues, and it's okay to be anti-trans rights on all these others, and that's a cool ideology to have.
And speaking
that's
of
what people are taking away from it. Yeah.
No, and I think that speaking of those other issues is actually kind of where I have even some of the biggest problems, especially with Anna's coverage. And in my video, I sort of explain that, you know, specifically on the LA wildfires, taking, you know, a 10-15 minute segment to put the face of this undocumented mentally ill man who was like citizens arrested by people, you know, in West LA for trying to start a fire that had nothing to do with the Palisades fire or the Altadena fires, right? Like nothing to do with it. Plasters his face like we're doing straight up like local news psycho propaganda, right? And then same with the Tren de Aragua stuff in, you know, Aurora, Colorado. Anna swears and stands by her coverage that they were all overrun. And you're like, this is so dangerous, man. It is so scary. And it's like, okay, let's say they're gangs. They're overrun with it, right? Like, do we believe that, like, do you understand like the consequences of who you're talking to and what how you're talking about this? Because she never says it. She leads the audience to the water. And she's shadowboxing with the left. Like, well, you see, I don't know, because they're there and they're harming those residents. And it's like, well, so what's the answer? Because we know what the answer is under authoritarianism, which you seem okay to casually walk toward. It's arresting innocent Venezuelans who, yes, don't have documentation, but who are seeking asylum, who happen to have tattoos. Now they're in a prison cell in a terrorist prison in El Salvador. Christy Noem's in front of them doing selfies. Like, literally, like, so, and that's the other thing with homelessness. It's, look, I know there's a housing crisis. I know it. And I know, you know, yes, I understand. But honestly, the Democrats take way too much money, and all of the housing projects and all the attempts at curbing it are all corrupt. And so what's the answer? What it say it? Finish your thought. And the thought is, sometimes you got to criminalize people. Sometimes it's okay to lock people up. Sometimes they should be deported. You know what I'm saying?
You can't be on the other side of it too. She frames it usually in such a way where it's like, if they're talking about crime, it's like, are you actually on the side of the mad stabber who stabs out grandmother's eyeballs every day? Are you taking that side? And it's like, no, but this is an isolated case. Is this indicative of a broader trend? Is this happening all the time? Are Venezuelans coming over here and stabbing grandmother's eyes out? But if you pick this scary ass story, of course everyone's frightened. Of course, like I'm not going to sit here and defend the eye stabber.
She picks it on purpose. She picks it to talk to us, to chide us. That's what she's talking to us, right? And that's why I find it so sloppy and lazy and dangerous. And I do think I do think that the origin that she constantly talks about of chat was mean to her about talking about being assaulted by an unhoused person or being sort of groped, right? That was scary, obviously. But I actually think I found the first video, and I know she's probably watching this, and there's like a 10% chance I could be wrong on this, but I think it was when she actually interviewed a guy who wrote a book called San Francisco that was called How Progressives Ruin Cities. And it was basically blaming, progressives for like allowing drug addicts to run rampant. And it's not just about housing.
Oh,
Some people
that's
don't want to be housed.
That's the Michael
Schellenberger.
Schellenberger book. He's
Schellenberger,
the guy
yeah.
who took over the Twitter files when Elon Musk and Matt Taibbi had the falling out. So that's a great
Dude.
source to.
So this is like 2020, 2021. I'm on the second hour. She's on the first hour. I run in there and the chat is livid. And I'm like, what is happening? And they were like, yo, she was platforming this guy. He was saying all this stuff. But within that interview, she does share that story of being groped. And she took that and was like, see, the chat thing is downplaying something that was done to me. And it's like, no, they're mad because this guy is a fascist. This guy's awful on these issues. And he's not interested in having serious conversations about mental health, addiction, and actually, the unhoused population. Like, so that is what I think the origin story. And again, there's 10% that I could be wrong on this. She might have shared this. I didn't watch TYT all the time. So there might be TYT people who are like, nah, she told the story before, which could be, but I was on the show that day. It's just wild, of course.
Yeah, because I was always curious about that because I've heard her say that before about how the left made fun of her for telling her story, which, I mean, I didn't know if somebody had done that. And if any leftist had done that, then I unequivocally obviously denounce that. I think that's terrible to downplay what she went through and minimize it. So I never knew what she was referring to with that. And a lot of it seems to be them just like saying, like Cenk often brings up how he was called a Nazi. And it's like, I don't know who's calling you a Nazi. Is it Lance that you're insinuating called you a Nazi? Is it Matt? They are clearly shadow boxing a lot of the time, and they're arguing against straw men. And I feel like they're being purposefully obtuse specifically because the same things we are arguing at them are what they argued at us. I mean, 6 months before Anna Kasperi made her famous birthing person tweet, she was making that same argument, right? She was talking about how Professor Kiara Bridges and Josh Hawley were going toe-to-toe because she said person with the capacity for pregnancy, and he started to attack her for that, woke language or whatever. It's been a while, so my memory is a little bit foggy.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how he was just using that as a distraction. Trans people are not your enemy. And a few months later, all of a sudden, I guess that it's not a distraction. And using that kind of language is woke and it's bad or whatever. Not to like put words in her mouth. I don't want to straw man her after accusing her of straw manning us, but like it's just they've all done this 180, her and Cenk in particular, and it's frustrating that all of a sudden, we've gotten to this point where Francesca is beyond the pale, Sam Cedar's beyond the pale, Lance is beyond the pale. Who's not beyond the pale?
Sam Cedar's the ultimate grifter, according to
Brianna Wu.
Ultimate
Ben
grifter,
Glebe,
Sam Cedar.
Yeah.
Brianna Wu, Ben Glebe. I mean,
they're fine. they can participate in the marketplace of ideas.
Platforming Ben Glebe is truly like it's like platforming a Nazi. I'm very
it's genocide apologia, straight up.
I'm very confident in saying that. Like you cannot, and they get clicks, and that's whatever. But like, it's straight trash that comes out of his mouth. Absolute garbage, absolute lies. He's also presenting. It's not like he's just coming in and be like, hey, what do you think? We know you're very, Zionist, whatever. He's actually presenting stories about Gaza. And, Anna, oh, how dare you have us censor somebody? And it's like, the last thing I'll say on this is like, I've always been open to debate. I've always wanted to have debate. In fact, about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, around the trans athletes issue, I told Cenk called me and he was like, hey, just, like TYT show, the main flagship show, we're going to be more like, he didn't say moderates, but like mainstream progressives. We're going to do like mainstream. Right. I'm like, cool, centrism. Okay. And then because that's what they are and they don't, it's fine to be a centrist. It's okay. It's okay to be a centrist. I don't like you. I don't like your politics, but anyway. But then I floated to him. I was like, why don't we just have a debate? I think the audience would love it. You and Anna, me and John will talk about it. We'll hash it out. I think folks will be never, like, no. So this whole idea of like, I've had this
Yeah.
debate, we can totally, I'm an open book. It's like, you're pretending that me saying that you acted like a bitch to, again, only my patrons that good old Hank clipped up, and like, it's just like pretending that was the massive slight, and or the fact that I said that his brain was broken, like as if that was like a racial slur. Like, well, calm down.
I said his brain is broken too. I put it in like the thumbnails because his brain is broken. He's very clearly crashing out. But to your point, Francesca, like in bringing up, Ben Glebe and Brianna Wu, my contention isn't that Cenk should deplatform them. But what I'm saying is that I feel like it is disingenuous to platform them and debate them, but you won't offer that same thing to Francesca or Sam Cedar. You'll talk to right-wing fascists like Charlie Kirk, an explicit racist white supremacist, but yet you won't have that same conversation with Sam Cedar. That's what's so frustrating to me, is because the energy that they save for the left, like the vitriol that they refer to the left with on a daily basis, like that's not there for the Zionists. Well, unless he's on
No.
Piers Morgan, then he does do a great job. It's not there though for for anyone but the left. Like it
No,
just
and I
is-
told him
they're
that
the homo
privately.
progressives. Like what?
So privately, before I asked Cenk to come on to have the debate, I privately called him and I said the exact same thing. And I was like, you seem to have so much grace for, some people on the right. And I just wish you would extend that same grace to people who were once your allies, who were on your network, who really want, whatever, our side to win, for again,
Yeah.
justice, democracy to prevail. And he's like, nah. Because again, we're talking about a really thin-skinned person. Like, it sucks, but he is. And it's just like, that can't be your guy. You know what I'm saying? Like someone who's like, like, it's just like all I'm saying is like, can you reserve some grace for people who agree with you on 98% of other issues? And it's like, he is constantly, again, every accusation is a confession. Oh, but you got to stand in line. You got to do this. And you got to. And it's like, but only one of us is yelling right now, man. Like,
And it's not like what I find amazing. For years, he's talked about how Democrats are too nice. They got to fight harder. You got to fight. Don't be afraid to
Sure.
fight. And when somebody fights him and challenges him, that's too mean. You can't do that. No, we got to have a beer together. Like, what the? I thought you were the guy that's all about fighting, like about fighting for what
Yes.
you believe in. And
Yeah.
someone does it to you, and you can't stand it. Like it's been wild to witness the whole just the complete destruction of that network because of both Anna and him.
and I
Yeah,
think,
I will
go
say,
ahead.
like, again, I don't know what happened in the background, but it was always like at least one feather in his cap that, like, he may be fighting with you about this stuff and he may have horrible opinions, but he at least his long-standing contributors, he let them still do that, like, on the network, like, even though they were disagreeing with him and talking shit about him. And I say that usually even about the right wingers that reach it, that do stuff with left wingers, like, whatever you think about this person, the fact that they engage and we have these discussions, I think that's something, the one thing that's a feather in their cap. But like, apparently he doesn't even want that anymore.
Right. I mean, you look, like, I'm not saying I should stay on the network. I do think it sucks. And I have a lot of hard opinions and sad opinions about the damage report. But I think it sucks because while they weren't going to book me anymore, and I knew that tacitly on the main show, John and I are good friends and I go on there every week. And he has since been barred. And so has Dr. Rashad Ritchie been barred from having me on Damage Report or Indisputable, which is really sad. And I do think it kind of speaks to the work culture that John does not feel comfortable in saying, this is my show and I would like to
Yeah.
book who I would like to book. And I do think there is a general lack of respect for the people and autonomy for the people who actually make Cenk and the network a lot of money. And you know what? The other thing is, it's not that much money. I know that they have a lot of people to pay. I understand that. But then, like what, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, scale back if you need to scale back. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you need, like, it's just like, that's not a reason to have poor workplace practices. If anything, you'd have more buy-in when you give people more freedom. You'd have people working harder for you. But again, I also know that they consistently deny, and I said this in my video, deny people bonuses when they're making hella money for them. And it's like, nah, not enough. And it's just like, he's cheap. I'm sorry. He's cheap. And the other thing is like, I got paid for my appearances, not a lot, but I got paid. I relied on that income for a while. And I remember when I got paid, the head of programming told me, don't tell anybody that you're getting paid. Right. So something to know.
I was on there a few times, never got paid. Not that I expected to, but
right.
Yeah, I didn't expect to, because I was just a contributor to a power panel. So it's like, yeah, I'm getting on a bigger.
Sure, but if you're consistently going on,
I was on the main show like the first hour a few times.
I think if you're making content, like you're actually editing a segment, you're writing a script or thinking of an idea, you're basically presenting it to you, and like you were doing this for them, right? And then you would have
I was a guest host, but also I was paid for my time, and I think that's the right thing to do. And it doesn't have to be tons of money, right? But I think it is the right thing to do. It is time out of your day, you know, and it can't just be for like, thank you for the platform, sir. And you know, they also obviously went back on a contract they signed with me in 2018. They do a lot of people dirty. In 2018, it was like I was hired for 2 weeks and they were like, oh, sorry, just kidding. And my reps were like, you need to sue them. And I was like, I don't want to, because I want to maintain a good relationship with them. And, you know, you've heard Ben Dixon's stories. We all know Hank, the editor, part-time editor stories, the union busting stories. It's like, the guy doesn't necessarily believe in workplace democracy. He doesn't believe in even transparency. And I know that also firsthand, that it's a very opaque company. Nobody really knows what anyone else is doing. The strategy isn't clear. And I'm going to go, but the last thing I'll say is that's part of, I think, what has happened with the Anna, Cenk, Thelma Louise situation is that Anna was for so long kept away from decision making. She was just a presenter and she was pissed about it. It sucked for her. And I was someone who super encouraged her to like fight for it, don't leave, ask for more power, ask for more, you know, editorial control. Oops. Because
what have you created?
What did I do?
Maybe she should have left.
Yeah, well, yeah, and she has a lot of control, and I think Cenk, out of a sense of paternalism, responsibility, feeling like maybe he did her wrong in the early years, didn't, you know, give her enough buy-in, I think is allowing her to take the network in not a great direction, and now obviously he's all on board with it. So that is my sort of like psychoanalysis of, again, what I think is a really toxic relationship that actually they will turn on one another. We will see that happen. My kid
Ariana, I
is
think you wanted
crying.
to jump in too.
No worries. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much,
Ariana,
Francesca.
please, you haven't said anything. If there's
Sorry.
anything.
No, I just want to say real quick, like back when we were talking about other things, I think it was really telling about how he responded to you when you challenged him, but then with Charlie Kirk, he was like, okay, it's okay, let's just go on to the next thing. And it's like when he speaks to leftists, especially like, you know, he does this thing where he yells and he becomes very animated. He even does it with Hassan, which, mind you, Hassan has also talked about the work conditions at TYT too, and he also said that he got screwed over by his own uncle, although he didn't harbor any bad feelings. But I just kind of want to end this by saying, I feel like TYT had the potential of being like Zateo. They had the potential of grabbing a lot of people who are younger, more fresh, turning them into contributors, even if it's a little bit of money, helping them sustain, just put food on the table, because we all know how hard it is when we first start out. But instead, they've gone down this weird road, and it's really sad because left media is already very minimal compared to Republican media. Like we all saw that graph that just got released. Like there's not a lot of us out here, and the ones that are out here, we're getting completely overpowered by Republican and right-leaning media. And it's just like we never see this kind of divide between Republicans, but in our side, this is like so common. This is why I feel like sometimes we can't get shit done, because we just continuously, like, not we, but there's certain people with power, you know.
The infighting does suck. And again, lastly, like I do think that the invitation always stands. I'm super down for Anna to litigate tell me why I'm wrong about the LA fires. Tell me why I'm wrong about Tren de Aragua. Tell me why I'm wrong. Like I'm super open to still having these conversations. But I guess Cenk wanted to pull the ripcord and no more. And I get it. It is weird to be like, thank you for my money after I called you a bitch. Like, I totally agree with that. But also, like, you're big, I'm small, you know what I mean? And I think there is this weird sense of power. Like, they're acting like they're not this massive platform, like they're not this massive network, and that we all have what they have, and we really don't. But I agree with you, Ariana, that like ultimately we should have honest conversations about most people aren't on board with trans athletes. So how do we have to, like, do we pivot to other issues? How do we humanize trans people? Like, well, what is the answer? Like, it's not just one thing. I don't think anyone's saying that. But again, they really have just a self-fulfilling little, like, sick little prophecy between them. And they don't actually, there's not a lot of daylight. There's not a lot of disagreement. And also their brains are broken by the internet and the clickbait algorithm. I'm sorry. Like, you do this for long
just
enough.
watching
and it's like,
videos of themselves.
I
Why
know.
would
And
you
you
do
just,
that?
and
They're
you're
gonna
just
watch
like,
this.
yeah, and like, you know, you can tell when they go to the RNC and like Rudy Giuliani comes on, and, you know, it's like, hello, you know, and it's like they're super softballing him, you know, and then Charlie Kirk stops by and you're like, oh yeah, these are just like characters. These are all just caricatures, right? Like, this is not real. And I really would hate to ever be that kind of content creator that, like, none of this is real. I'm just kind of a caricature.
Right.
Eve, you should probably tell everyone where they can find you now, since
Yeah.
it's TYT's
Hell
biggest
yeah.
mistake.
Links in the chat so everyone can get access to them.
Oh yeah, thank you for I don't know how to do that because I don't know why. But thank you for having me on. Thanks for letting me talk a lot. At Franny Fio, FRANIFIO on YouTube with Habituation Room. I'll stream tomorrow at 1 p.m. And listen wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, I'm on Zateo for America Unhinged for the first 100 days. We'll see if it continues. But hell yeah, I hope to
Nice.
come back, guys, and have you
yeah.
on the shows. And I love you all, and you're the best.
Awesome.
We love you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming
so
on.
much. And also, check her out on Patreon. What's your Patreon?
Patreon.com/Bituation Room. Spell it out.
All right, folks.
Bituation Room.
We'll link to that in the
Jank is a
description too. Thank you so
Bituation Room.
much.
Okay.
And with that,
That was a great exit. You know, one thing that she said that kind of jogged my memory is because, like, I was part of TYT Network. I was never a contributor, just part of TYT Network. They were my multi-channel network partner. And for those who don't know what that means, if you're not like on this side of the creator space, is it's kind of an outdated thing, but you basically pay your multi-channel network partner to represent you. They take like 10, 15, well,
They
most
steal
of
your
them
money
take
and do
around,
very little. That's what they do.
Yeah, usually they take around 30%. TYT compared to other
That's
MCNs, much better. They take around 10 to 15%. And then they represent you in the event there's a copyright claim or something. They have their inside sources at YouTube work with you. And the person who runs TYT's MCN is phenomenal. Excellent person. Very, very good. One thing that is alarming that I noticed when I was a network partner is that when they distribute the payments, when they give you back your money, the payments are very inconsistent. Like, it's not just every month on a certain day. Sometimes you don't get paid that month. The next month you get 2 payments. And some creators, I will not name them, this is not my story to tell, but they would be worried about making bills and paying rent because they just, we don't know when the paycheck's going to come. So that is something that is extremely unprofessional, and I never raised this to them when I was there, but it would bother me that, like, you would go months, not months, I should say. I don't think we went more than like 2 months, but like sometimes you just wouldn't get paid in a month. That's not very good because some of these creators that were on the network, now there's not much, but they were living paycheck to paycheck basically. And you have to give people the money when YouTube distributes that money to you. It's their money. They're paying you to represent them. So that's one thing that I think that, you know, having that be my experience, I know that everything else everybody is saying is absolutely legitimate because it checks out just with my limited experience. If me in this position as a network partner outside of the network sees the fuckery, then I know that people's like stories, Mondare's story, Ben Dixon, Francesca, Hanks, it checks out.
Yeah, I had a similar. So I was partnered with them on Facebook for a while because I was not able to monetize my channel in Canada. But like so, Facebook didn't have monetization yet in Canada when I started. But I was able to do it through them since they were an American company, obviously. So yeah, I had the same experience. But like, luckily, I didn't depend on Facebook. Like, all the Facebook money was like just kind of added to me. YouTube was always my focus, and that my YouTube always stayed like just I never had an MCN for that. But yeah, it was the same thing. It was like 1 month there'd be nothing. Next month there'd be two. Again, didn't bother me, but I could totally see people that depended on those checks. That being an issue for sure. But yeah, the people like it's so bizarre. The people that I've had worked with there, like as you said, Mike, fantastic. Aaron's fantastic. Great guy. I've been on JR's show, fantastic person. John, same thing. And to be fair, Jenk and Anna as well. When I was on their shows, like this is back when they hadn't gone nuts yet. Both fantastic, very welcoming, great people. I had a great conversation with Anna during the whole trucker convoy thing that was happening in Canada. And then it was shortly after then is when things started to turn, and they'd invited me on the show, and I was like, I'm good. I don't need to come on.
Oh, they did invite you since then.
Oh yeah,
I remember that.
I don't think they had gone full. Like the last invite I got was probably like a year and a half ago, like maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But no, it was actually the last invite was shortly after they started doing the anti-trans stuff, and I'm like, I'm not coming on the show. Like I'm good. Yeah, but it's just been sad to see the wasted potential with that network, because as mentioned before, Zateo, what they're doing now is like that's what TYT could be doing. Like Medic Hassan is doing great things with that network. I've watched a few of their live streams, and I don't know what's going on with the Young Turks. Like it's very depressing.
It is.
I don't know. I feel like TYT was kind of, for me, it was a dream. Like I was like, oh my god, like I can't wait until one day, like I get maybe picked up by TYT and I become a contributor, and then everything started happening and all the contributors started dropping like hot potatoes. Wait, what, Lance?
I was like, instead you got picked up by the leftist mafia.
Yeah, that's great.
Even better.
Were you
The
were you connected with them?
The team knew TYT.
I don't know. Were you one of those Twitch streamers who were connected to them, or no?
No,
I know there were a bunch of Twitch streamers who did like
Yeah, there were. Yeah. There was Ben, who's a trans woman, and there was Ravana. There were a lot of people that were connected to them, and they all
Ravana, right? That's who.
Yeah.
I was confusing you with.
There's so
Ravana,
many
my
great
bad.
people that still work there,
Just
like
lost
John and Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Like it.
Well, I don't.
It makes me sad.
Talking about John, I don't know. I love John. He's cool. I just don't know how much longer he's gonna. You know what I mean? Like,
You think he's gonna leave
he
soon?
bounces and he's like, I'm out. Like in the next month or so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, he has stayed consistent. Like he hasn't wavered. It's really been the two main hosts that have kind of just lost it.
I was never a big TYT guy. I've never like I get their I've told this before. I get their importance and their stature as the earliest progressive YouTube channel, the most successful progressive YouTube channel. But I just it had no relevance. I have no connection to it. I did work for the Majority Report when they were under the TYT network on YouTube, and so I had worked with them like as one of their network channels, just for some standard YouTube procedures. And Aaron is great, but in terms of personally and how they affected my worldview and political leanings, not 1 inch, not 1 iota. They have never had any bearing on. They mean nothing to me.
Honestly, I just think it was like, it's not even like, did they change our worldviews? Like, no, it was just the idea that like, okay, Cenk created this leftist kind of news network that kind of was like in the same structure as traditional media, but not entirely. And they were giving Twitch streamers and people who wanted to like make a name for themselves spaces, and like David said, I'm echoing it now, they could have been the next Zateo. Like they had a lot of potential. I don't know. I still don't know what this is. Like I genuinely don't think it's a grift. I think this is what Cenk truly believes, and I
I don't think it's a grift, no.
believes. Yeah, I think they
Because
truly
it's hurting them. Like if you
Yeah.
check their YouTube views, they're not doing well generally.
Mhm.
Like it's not like they're seeing all this right wing success now. Like it's not doing well for them. So they generally believe what they're spewing. And to be fair, like they still, this isn't to defend them, but like, you know, they still criticize Israel. Like there's still consistent positions
Right.
in that sense. But it's just some of this wacky stuff with like homelessness and trans rights, where it's just like, what are you guys talking about? Like it's very reactionary in a very bizarre way that they were never before. But
they became if it's the way you're describing it, it honestly sounds like they became the 30 Rock joke where you know, there's the classic, oh, I'm fiscally conservative and socially liberal. They're the opposite. They're fiscally liberal and socially conservative now.
Yeah.
it actually is kind of like that. Yeah.
True. The good news is that, you know, there's more options now. When TYT was really big, there was them, Tom Hartman, Democracy Now, and then there were just like these smaller creators that were starting to emerge. Like David Pakman, Kyle Kalinske, like these individuals that were
Mike
doing it.
Figueiredo.
Nowadays there's I was like the second wave, I think. You and I came in like wave 2, David.
You're
I wanna
before me.
say,
I
right?
remember like I watched TYT and I watched Kyle. I found Pacman when he did a takedown of oh, who was it? I forget the name now. But it
Harris.
anyway, I forget the name. But it was like this, it went like viral, this takedown he did. Anyways, so I found him and then I found you. And then I started, I think a few months later maybe, or like the next year.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Thankfully
there wasn't
now
a whole
though,
lot back then.
there's so many options. Like as you said, Zateo, like producing incredible documentaries, investigative journalism. There's a ton of different options, and that is the good thing. I just like as you know, what you all were talking about earlier. It's just the thing that worries me about TYT is just the insidiousness of it, because I think that the Jesse Single TYT types, not to say that they're on the same level of Jesse Single, perhaps Anna soon, but like those types are so much more dangerous to me than the Matt Walshes and the Ben Shapiros of the world, because you know there's that respectability of it. When we brought on Kate, I'm blanking on her last name, when she was talking about British politics, trans issues in particular. God, I'm blanking on her name. I'm so
not good at
sorry.
names.
This is disrespectful.
But I think I know who you're talking about.
Say that again, Lance.
Katie Montgomery.
Yeah.
Montgomery, yes, Katie Montgomery. Why was I blanking? I'm so sorry, Katie. I love you, but she made this really great point about how, you know, transphobes in the U.S. compared to the U.K. You know, in the UK, there's this veneer of respectability. They don't say like Michael Knowles does at CPAC, we think we should eradicate transgenderism. Like there's this questioning about it, this intellectualization of concern trolling.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that is
that's
so
more
much more
dangerous.
persuasive. Absolutely, 1,000%. That changes minds. Matt Walsh is not going to convince anybody unless they're already in that echo chamber. That's why, like, for those who are, you know, wondering why we talk about TYT, it's because of that. You know, even though they're still losing relevance, they're still relevant. And I think that it's important that we call them out and let people know that this is not, you know, acceptable. I think that when you start to dehumanize trans people, once you open that door, then you've let in the devil into your home. You need an exorcist, okay? Because then from there you go, you know, from sports, you go to bathrooms or locker rooms if you're Anna Kasparian, you go to, oh, well, I don't know if... Yeah, it's just, it's like that seed that gets planted that blossoms into a turf tree, and that's what's happening right now. And the turf tree is taken over the studio. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm really tired. I just, it's dangerous and it's sad.
No, I agree with you, but honestly, I don't even, like, I'm thinking about it. They're not palatable to progressives. They're not palatable to Republicans. Maybe the centrists, but even then, there's a lot of, like, there's a huge spectrum of where you land on the centrist.
I feel like it's like
Yeah.
Gen X liberals. I feel like is
even that debate. Even that, I'm like
the ones that
it's almost
didn't
like a
fall for
normie
COVID,
type audience.
the COVID conspiracies, but they're on like the cusp.
Yeah.
I just feel like they're. I mean, I've said this before in a YouTube video. Like, I don't think Cenk and Anna are either. I know Anna for sure. Cenk, I think, is still kind of getting there, but they're not progressive anymore, and it's okay. They just seem miserable, especially Anna. Like, you genuinely seem really miserable at your job. You seem miserable talking about these stories.
There's no levity.
No, there's none. And it's
Like-
just like, go to a network that speaks to you, babe. Like, you're not happy here. It shows. Like, we were just talking about it before we came live. Like, the viewers can tell when you're upset. The viewers can tell when you're sad. They can tell when you're not into it. They can tell when you're burnt out, because content is kind of like art, and your art starts to not really translate the same way it usually does. And it's just like with Anna, it's like, it's clear you don't like this. Like, go somewhere where you're happy, you know?
It's also just so
Yeah.
exhausting. Like the reason, like I watched a lot of TYT back in the day, and like I even, you know, I'm a weirdo. I'd watch like Old School, which like Jenk and Ben Mankiewicz would like talk, and like I thought that was really interesting because these two older guys talking about shit I don't know about. Like it was just like it was a window into like a whole different, like, who are these Gen X people? But it's back then there was levity, and there was like they would talk about their personal lives and like laugh between, you know, segments, or like after the show. Like the after show wasn't about like politics, it was about whatever. Like there was personality and soul in what the show used to be. And now, like, if you sit and watch an hour of TYT, you come away like feeling tired. Like, I gotta go to bed. This is exhausting. I'm being yelled at for like an hour straight. They won't shut the fuck up. Just like screaming at my face. Like, this is like, no, I can't. I don't know how people can sit there and watch like 2 hours of that shit and not feel just terrible after. Just, there's no joy at all. And I get the world's terrible, of course it is. But like, when you have a show like that, like, be a person. Like, it's okay to be a person sometimes, and just, you know, not get so dragged down. And people want to feel like, hey, you're on our side and you're fighting for us. And you know, I get this is the news is depressing, but these are real people that I'm hanging out with. You know, I'm watching for a couple hours. That's why people have streamers. Like, they see them in their, you know, in their real lives, and see them as people.